The recall election of Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker is a very big deal. It's an especially big deal, apparently, to some very rich, very powerful Republicans across the country who are pulling out all stops, not to mention their fat checkbooks, to funnel tens of millions of dollars into the Scott Walker campaign fund in the weeks leading up to the June 5th recall election. For Democrats nationwide, well, apparently not so much. Let's be honest. Most voters don't give a shit what happens outside their home state. So what if Kansas proposes an $800 million tax cut for wealthy investors that'll be paid for through the elimination of teachers, through cuts in public employee pension funds, and through the loss of medical care services for the working poor? Fuck Kansas. And who really cares if Florida passes the most politically devious voter ID and voter registration laws in the country, or that, even as we speak, less than 90 days before their next election, they try to purge the registration rolls of as many as 180,000 registered voters? You don't live in Florida. Why the hell should you care? And who the hell really cares if Ohio and 30 other states pass state constitutional amendments to ban gay marriage, civil unions, and in many cases excludes gays and lesbians from many of the discrimination protections that are guaranteed to most citizens? You know, like protections from being discriminated in fair housing, employment, even bullying. You're not gay, neither is your kid, so who cares? And why should you give a rat's ass if Pennsylvania, under its Tea Party Governor Tom Corbett, like so many other red states the last 2 years, decides to rewrite their tax code to give massive tax cuts to corporations who've already enjoyed record profits the last 3 or 4 years, and yet have created no new jobs as a result, while balancing the lost revenue through the elimination of tens of thousands of teachers across the state, while burdening parents with massive student fees for participation in sports, in the marching band, and in virtually every other student activity. Screw Pennsylvania. I guess it's just a long ride you have to endure to get from Chicago to New York. My friends, all of this matters. It matters to all of us. These aren't situations going on in someone else's backyard. These have become the Republican national agenda affecting each and every one of us. What's happened in Wisconsin is what's happened all across America since the 2010 midterm elections. Governor Scott Walker has arrogantly stood up and slapped each and every one of us across the face with his corporate-bought, velvet-gloved hand. And through that arrogance, he is challenging each and every one of us to stand up to the pro-corporate, pro-rich, anti-working man policies that he secretly came into office ready to methodically implement. Wisconsin, under Walker, slashed corporate taxes and capped property taxes, leaving school districts across the state in financial panic. He sought to remedy this situation by taking even more funding from public schools and offering it instead to private, for-profit charter schools, whose record of student achievement is truly an oxymoron. These money-making scam institutions have an even poorer record of achievement in student academics than the least effective public schools in existence. Walker rode into office in the midst of a 2010 Republican landslide, boasting that he would create 250,000 jobs in his first term. Yet, by his own count, which conveniently can't be fact-checked before the election, he's created merely 30,000 jobs in the last 2 years, while every verifiable accounting taken from the National Bureau of Labor and Statistics shows that Wisconsin has in fact lost 37,000 jobs since Walker took office, the worst jobs record in the whole country. Without warning, without debate, without so much as an explanation, Walker, in his own words, dropped the bomb on public unions in the state of Wisconsin. He said this effort to dismember and destroy collective bargaining for most state workers was actually an effort to remedy the state budget. But since these same unions had effectively already given in to every concession on wages, health care benefits, and every other benefit negotiated on the table, it became instantly clear that this was merely an attempt to gain political advantage. This middle-of-the-night, rancidly covert union-busting bill was designed, essentially, to eliminate the single largest Democratic funding organization and prevent it from ever helping Democrats again. It was all about making Wisconsin permanently a red state, as Walker admitted himself to his single largest donor, the radical right-wing billionaire Diane Hendricks. Diane Hendricks gave Walker a total of $500,000 just in the last few months for his recall election. And of course, Hendricks had this kind of money to toss Walker's way because her business, ABC Supply Company, the nation's largest roofing, windows, and siding distributor, paid exactly $0 in state income tax over the last 4 years for which records are available. The nation's single largest distributor of these types of building supplies paid exactly $0 in income tax over the most recent 4-year period records are available, and yet feels state employees are coddled. It's not enough, apparently, that her own company doesn't contribute even a dime to any of their wages or benefits. She still wants to see those wages and benefits slashed. Here's a novel idea. Perhaps we ought to ask those individuals and corporations who are contributing the most toward state operations on how best to regulate those operations, rather than to take the advice of people like Miss Hendricks, who contributes absolutely nothing. Maybe we could start with the state workers themselves, who could best address what it is they need to do their jobs, while they collectively are paying millions of dollars in state taxes. I won't even get into the lack of integrity and ethics this represents from the only sitting governor in the country to have established his own defense fund and who has already hired 4 specialized attorneys to fight anticipated charges stemming from a probe into activities going on while he was city manager of the city of Milwaukee. And it's not just that Walker has taken this right-wing philosophy of his and attempted to shove it down the people's throats with no discussion, no debate, even going so far as to ban citizens from the state capitol building and its grounds to escape their protests. Walker has amassed a fortune of more than $25 million, perhaps closer to $30 million, just in the last few months leading up to this recall election. And the majority of this money has come from outside the state of Wisconsin rather than his own in-state supporters. This money has come from people like the Koch brothers out of Kansas, the oil and gas industry down in Texas, Oklahoma, Mississippi, and Louisiana. It's come from Wall Street bankers and hedge fund managers. Meanwhile, Walker's opponent in the June 5th election, Milwaukee Mayor and Democrat Tom Barrett, has managed to raise just over $1 million since winning his primary election about a month ago. Walker now says that he wants to move forward and not refight the divisive issues he himself instigated a year ago. But what he really means is he wants Wisconsin voters to trust him so he can screw them over yet again while doing the bidding of his corporate masters. That's what this election is all about, because that's what Scott Walker is all about. And why should you or I care what happens on June 5th in Wisconsin? Because if Walker wins, it sends a loud and clear message to other Republican governors and Republican state legislatures, even to Republicans in the U.S. House and Senate, that they can move forward with their plans to dismantle and derail collective bargaining in this country, that they can continue their pursuit of stealing elections, they can continue to undo decades of civil rights and women's rights protections in every corner of this country. Rights and protections our fathers and grandmothers fought for decades to provide to us. To sit back and allow that to happen makes a mockery of everything they fought so hard for, and that we, for far too long, have taken for granted. If you live in Wisconsin or know someone who does, contact them. Let them know how you feel, how important this is to you, and how important it should be to them, and urge them to do the right thing. Because it really does matter what happens in Wisconsin. It matters to all of us.